The Xantorians were known across the galaxy as a dominant force, their empire spanning countless systems. Each world subjugated and its native species reduced to servitude. To them, the idea of competition was laughable. With their superior technology and cold, calculated intellect, they viewed themselves as the apex of evolution. Other species existed only to be conquered, tamed, and put to use for the benefit of the Empire. Earth, to the Xantorians, was just another acquisition. When their reconnaissance ships first arrived in orbit, they found no immediate threat. Humans were small, fragile, and woefully behind technologically. They observed humans squabbling over petty conflicts, seemingly unable to unite even in the face of global challenges. Amused, the Xantorians saw no reason for a grand conquest. Earth was no prize to be won with warfare. Instead, they decided to take a more measured approach: domestication. The humans were captured easily, their cities swiftly overwhelmed by the Xantorians' gravity weapons and energy nets. Entire populations were rounded up, sorted, and shipped to various Xantorian worlds. The lucky ones were kept as pets by high-ranking officials, admired for their exotic, primitive appearance. Others were used for labor, operating machinery, or maintaining alien infrastructure under constant supervision. The Xantorians, amused by the humans' attempts to understand their new place in the galaxy, saw them as little more than amusing novelties. Leading the charge on Earth was Commander Varric, a Xantorian veteran who had overseen the conquest of dozens of planets. To him, humans were no different from the subservient species of his other campaigns. Small-minded and easily controlled, he prided himself on being efficient, and Earth was conquered without the need for bloodshed. To Varric, this was a success. Humans, of course, were far from oblivious. While their initial submission seemed like weakness to the Xantorians, the truth was far more complex. On the surface, the humans appeared docile, accepting their roles as pets or laborers. They carried out their duties without resistance, and those kept as personal pets learned the alien language quickly, mimicking their master's speech with eerie accuracy. But beneath the surface, humans were watching, learning, and adapting. They studied the alien technology, observed how their captors communicated, and slowly began to piece together the structure of the Xantorian Empire. They took note of the Xantorians' weaknesses, their arrogance, their reliance on technology, and their lack of understanding of human ingenuity. However, to the Xantorians, this behavior was merely amusing. They thought it showed the humans' desire to please their masters, unaware that it was the first step in a much larger plan. As Varric oversaw the pacification of Earth's final cities, he occasionally received reports of small disturbances. A group of humans had managed to disable an energy net. Another had overloaded a piece of machinery, causing significant damage to a Xantorian facility. Each incident was dismissed as a fluke, an accident caused by the humans' primitive minds unable to fully grasp their new reality. The idea that humans might be orchestrating these events was not even considered. One evening, Varric stood on the bridge of his ship, watching Earth rotate below. "A simple world," he muttered to himself. "And such simple creatures." His second-in-command, Zithra, nodded in agreement. "They are like animals, Commander," Zithra said. "Obedient when broken. I believe this species will serve us well." Varric's pale blue eyes gleamed. Indeed, perhaps the Council will finally see the value in keeping them as pets across the Empire. There's something quaint about their curiosity. At that moment, Varric received another report, this one about a group of humans who had gone missing from a labor camp. Frustrated, he waved it off, ordering a search party to retrieve the escapees. In his mind, the humans had no chance of survival in the wild, much less of posing any real threat. As his ship drifted in orbit, Varric failed to notice the subtle signals passing between the supposedly subdued humans. A storm was brewing beneath the surface, but in his arrogance, Varric saw only complacency. Satisfied with his accomplishments, he turned away from the planet. "Send word to the Council," he ordered. "Earth is secure." Yet, as the report went out far below, In the shadows of the cities the Xantorians now controlled, humanity was already beginning to plan its next move. Varek's confidence in the humans' obedience had been unwavering, but as weeks passed, cracks began to form in the facade of control. The first signs were small: a tool misplaced here, a piece of machinery tampered with there. The Xantorians shrugged it off as human incompetence. However, the frequency of these accidents increased, and soon they could no longer be ignored. One of the first to notice something amiss was Overseer Relos, a mid-ranking Xantorian tasked with managing a mining outpost where humans were forced to extract rare minerals. Unlike Varek, Relos was more cautious. He had a habit of scrutinizing every detail and had begun documenting the minor infractions committed by the human laborers. At first, he attributed these disruptions to ignorance, but as he reviewed his records, a disturbing pattern emerged. The humans were not merely making mistakes. They were working together. Relos observed how different groups coordinated their actions, disabling equipment in synchronized fashion and passing tools to one another without ever being seen. It was subtle, but the intention behind it was clear. They were testing their limits. Relos brought his concerns to Varek, who dismissed him with a wave of his hand. "They are pets, Overseer," Varek scoffed. "They do not possess the intelligence to organize such acts. You're reading too much into it." But Relos was not so sure. He doubled the security around the labor camps and increased surveillance on the human quarters. Yet the disturbances continued, and the humans remained infuriatingly elusive. It was as if they were always one step ahead, knowing where the guards would be and how to slip through unnoticed. The Overseer felt something was slipping out of his grasp. It wasn't long before the humans escalated. One night, a small group managed to completely disable the energy grid of an entire mining colony. The base went dark, and in the chaos, dozens of humans escaped into the wilderness. This time, Relos could no longer dismiss the events as coincidence. He launched a full investigation, and what he discovered left him unnerved. The humans had been systematically learning the intricacies of Xantorian technology. They had deciphered control panels, understood how to bypass security protocols, and most frighteningly, they had done it all in plain sight. Relos realized the human pets had been feigning docility while meticulously gathering information. When he confronted one of the human laborers, a man named Sarahan, the human met his gaze with a calmness that chilled Relos to his core. "We've been watching you longer than you think," Sarahan said, his voice steady. "You underestimated us." Relos reported this alarming interaction to Varek, but once again, his warnings fell on deaf ears. Varek's pride in his empire's superiority blinded him. "They're toying with you, Relos," Varek sneered. "Perhaps it is you who underestimates our strength." Undeterred, Relos began piecing together the humans' movements. He uncovered hidden communication networks they had built within the camps, channels through which they passed information and coordinated their sabotage. He was horrified by how deeply the humans had infiltrated the infrastructure of the colony. It wasn't long before the sabotage escalated into full-blown rebellion. Entire sectors went offline as humans began openly defying their Xantorian overseers. What Relos feared most was becoming reality. Humans were not passive pets. They were predators lying in wait, and the Xantorians had been their prey. In one particularly bold act, a group of humans stormed a Xantorian outpost, neutralizing the guards with weapons they had crafted from stolen alien technology. They moved with precision, dismantling systems that had once kept them in check. The Xantorians, caught off guard, barely had time to respond. For the first time, Varek began to feel the sting of doubt. The humans were no longer isolated in their actions. They had organized, forming a resistance that spread through multiple colonies. It was no longer just sabotage. It was a coordinated uprising. The humans had studied their captors well, learning not just how to survive, but how to dominate. Varek realized too late that his empire's arrogance had left them vulnerable. The pets they once mocked were now outmaneuvering them, using tactics so cunning that the Xantorians couldn't keep up. As reports of human victories poured in, Varek stood at the center of his command room, his mind racing. The humans had turned the tables. And now the true conflict was about to begin. But even in the face of this revelation, one question haunted Varric more than any other. How could they have underestimated them so completely? The storm was now undeniable, and the Xantorians were standing at its epicenter. The rebellion had begun in earnest. What started as isolated acts of sabotage had erupted into a full-scale uprising. Humans, once scattered and submissive, had unified into a deadly force, exploiting every weakness in the Xantorian Empire. Varric's once unshakable confidence had eroded, replaced by a gnawing fear he couldn't admit, even to himself. Commander Varric stood before the holographic map of the colonies, watching as red indicators, marking human-controlled territories, spread like a virus. His forces were retreating from planet after planet, unable to contain the sheer ferocity of the human resistance. The humans had become something he could no longer comprehend. They were no longer the docile creatures he had subjugated with ease. They had evolved into something far more dangerous. "They're outsmarting us," Zithra, his second-in-command, said with a grim expression. "They're not just attacking, they're dismantling everything we built." Varric's fists clenched at his sides. How did it come to this? They were pets, barely intelligent enough to grasp our technology. Zithra shook her head. Her silver eyes narrowed in frustration. "We underestimated them. They've been learning from us, Commander. They know our systems better than we do." Across the galaxy, the humans had turned the Xantorians' technology against them. They hacked into communication grids, rerouted energy sources, and disabled defense systems with ease. The once proud Xantorian fleet had been crippled by human ingenuity, their advanced weapons rendered useless by cunning tactics. The humans moved in packs, striking swiftly and vanishing before the Xantorians could mount a proper defense. Every strike was calculated, each move designed to maximize chaos. On one such planet, a critical Xantorian fortress was under siege. Human forces, led by Sarahan, the same man who had defied Relos at the mining outpost, had penetrated the Xantorian stronghold. Sarahan had become a symbol of human resistance, his quiet intensity and strategic brilliance inspiring fear in the Xantorians who once thought him nothing more than a laborer. In the shadows of the fortress, Sarahan and his team moved with precision, using stealth and misdirection to disorient their Xantorian adversaries. They knew every corner, every weak point of the fortress. As the humans descended upon the central command, the Xantorian guards fell quickly, unprepared for the predators they had once considered prey. Sarahan, his face lit by the cold glow of the fortress's control room, stood over the command console. His eyes, sharp and focused, scanned the Xantorian interface as his fingers danced over the controls. Within moments, he had overridden the fortress's defenses, opening the gates to the human forces waiting outside. The Xantorian commander of the fortress, desperate and terrified, watched in disbelief as his empire's stronghold crumbled around him. How did you do this?" the commander stammered, backing away from Sarahan. "You were nothing, just a human." Sarahan glanced at the commander, his expression unreadable. "We were never nothing. You just never saw what we could be." In that moment, the truth became clear. The humans had never been the prey. They had been the apex predators all along, patiently studying their captors, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Xantorians had been blind to the true nature of the species they had enslaved, mistaking quiet observation for submission. And now, the full weight of their mistake had come crashing down upon them. Back aboard his command ship, Varric received the final transmission from the fortress just before it went dark. His heart sank as he realized that the humans were not merely seeking revenge. They were systematically dismantling his entire empire, erasing the Xantorian presence from each world they had conquered. This cannot be the end," Varric whispered, his voice trembling with disbelief. But deep down he knew it was. The humans had become unstoppable. Their adaptability, their intelligence, and their ruthlessness had proven far superior to the Xantorian way of domination. As Varric gazed out into the void, he saw the future clearly for the first time. The galaxy would no longer be ruled by the Xantorians. Humanity had ascended, and they would now claim their place at the top. In the silence that followed, Varric turned to Zithra, his voice hollow. "We were fools. The humans, they are the true apex." Zithra's face was pale, her confidence shattered. "What do we do now, Commander?" Varric closed his eyes. There was no answer. The era of the Xantorian Empire had come to an end, and the galaxy now belonged to the humans. The once mighty Xantorians had learned the hardest lesson of all. To underestimate humanity was to invite their own extinction.